Welcome to Worktapes. This is a podcast where we tear apart songs. Why was the song written? What's it about? What's the context and emotion behind it? Where were you at the time? What were you going through? How did certain lines come to you? What's the inspiration? How long did it take to write? I'm Brandon Carswell, and I'm fascinated with songwriting and how songs are built from the ground up. It's easy to hear a full production song on the radio and dismiss its origin story. I want to hear the rough draft of the song, or the work tape. I want to explore the very beginning of how songs that move us and make us move are born.
Let me know. Tell me that it wasn't all for show. Make me melt again like summer snow. Just like one more time. Go too far. Push me, pull me, kiss me in the dark. Show me even vampires have a heart. No lie, you have mine. Guess you got your reasons. You leave me in pieces. You just walk away. I can't even pray. Tell me why you can go from good say to goodbye. Every cut gets deeper, but I'm fine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Worktapes. This is Brandon, as usual. Today is an exciting episode for me. I'm joined by the frontman for Luna Halo, who I've been a longtime fan of. He's had songs recorded by Taylor Swift, Steven Tyler, Keith Urban, Newsboys, Jars of Clay. He's a Grammy-nominated songwriter, had 3 top 10 Billboard dance singles. He's done all kinds of things. I've been in bands like Reality Check, Luna Halo, Five Knives, Keith Urban, Honeymoon Thrillers, which is one of my favorites. Been on the road with Velvet Revolver, Hoobastank, Smashing Pumpkins. Is there anything I'm missing? Nathan Barlowe.
It sounds impressive to me.
It's fun.
I'm like, who is this person?
You've had an expansive career in music and an impressive one. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been introduced to Luna Halo, well, Reality Check also, but I didn't know you were connected back then between the two. But in my high school days, we were just talking about that. And man, that first Luna Halo Shimmer album was just like on repeat for me. Like songs 1 through 4, I think were my go-tos at that time. And some of that was super influential for me being at the time, I wasn't necessarily in a band in that part of high school, but shortly after that I had started a band with my brother, rock band. And that kind of style of music between like Radiohead, Muse, Coldplay, kind of some of all of that stuff that I think you were probably heavy into.
All my favorites you just named,
and I remember shortly after high school, we were able to open a show with you guys in Raleigh at Lincoln Theater. I'm saying all that to say we also are kind of some of the Raleigh crowd. My brother and I being lived in Raleigh for a long time. You and Carrie, your brother, Carrie Barlowe, who's also a huge, fantastic songwriter. Well, he's not huge, but his songs are huge.
Yes, his songs are huge.
And man, it's exciting for me. There's a lot of history here. Carrie was on episode 11. Nick Autry, who's a mutual friend, good friend, who helped make your last record with Luna Halo or EP, who runs this studio that we're sitting in. Just so many connection points between people we know. History, I've followed you forever. So I'm excited about it, if you can't tell.
Yeah. Me too, man.
Yeah. So let's start off with, there are tons I want to talk about. I want to know, first of all, who you are and how you started in music at all. Like, what was the background? I know a little bit just based on my interview with Carrie.
Right.
But you're not Carrie, so I want to know what happened to get you so involved in music in the first place. And
I'm 10 years older than Carrie, so he doesn't even know how that started.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor, and so I come from a really musical family, even beyond my parents, just grandparents. And, I remember growing up even as a 3-year-old and hearing the whole family, like 10 people around a piano, and my grandmother would be playing, and they'd sing hymns and gospel songs and stuff like that. So that was probably the original music I heard growing up. And then, as my mom tells it, at 4 or 5 in the car, she noticed I was singing harmony to the songs on the radio. So I was like singing tenor at 4 or 5. So they had a little group that my dad played piano, and we went and sang and stuff. And so I was sort of like the little trick pony that they would put me up on the thing, and I'd sing my 2 songs and they'd give me some candy and I'd, go off. So the stage was right away something I was comfortable with at a young age. And that's the first music that I remember hearing.
Yeah. So gospel.
Yeah.
Was it like Southern gospel? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very. Yeah. Beulah Land, all that stuff. So yeah. And then the first influential thing beyond that I can recall is my dad had a bunch of records that I believe my uncle gave him, and I remember finding the Beach Boys for the first time and hearing those harmonies, and that kind of music just changed my life forever.
Yeah. Was that was Brian Wilson's voice something that you tried to emulate? Because you have an insane range.
Right.
For people that don't know, you can go super low, and super high.
Yeah.
And you have a crazy great falsetto and all of that. Was that?
I really think that all those early influential albums like that, the falsettos, and even later in life, there were just albums like you mentioned, Muse, I would constantly be like, can I do that? Can I hit that? Can I, but absolutely the Beach Boys influenced that in the beginning. And that's how I started singing so high.
Right.
I just thought, well, that's what you do.
What age was that when you found those records?
I think that was around 9 or 10.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you would have, was it like a bunch of different styles that you were finding in that collection?
Yeah, for sure. But I gravitated towards, although there were 70s things like Led Zeppelin and all that kind of stuff, it's funny because I love that and I appreciate it, the musicianship especially. But I liked the melodic, for me, it was more the Beach Boys and 80s stuff and Elton John and things like that, this melody is what I was drawn to.
So it was all kind of like pop hooks?
Most of it, yeah. And then it was later that the rock bug really hit me, and but those are my early memories.
Yeah, because it seems like stylistically, in a good way, you go all over the place, or you have.
Yeah, I have.
From Reality Check being what it was in the 90s, which is kind of like a DC Talk-esque.
Yeah.
They had their own thing, it seemed like, right? Mm-hmm. Going it from that into Luna Halo, was there anything between that? Or did you find something in Reality Check? Were you being influenced at that time? You mentioned earlier being influenced by Radiohead kind of during that season, but that you were like, oh, this is what I want to do. What's
funny, and during the Reality Check years, when we won the national gospel competition and we won a record deal with Sparrow. And so we moved to Nashville in 96. And I remember being a little lost writing for that record because I didn't, the DC Talk comparison drove me nuts because we came we formed at Liberty as well, same area.
Okay.
I knew those guys, still great friends with all of them. But we didn't want to be them.
Right.
And it's hard when you have, two white guys and a black guy, and you rap and you rock, and it's, it's very similar
right.
Aesthetic and makeup. And when I came to town, I discovered this band called Self, which Matt Mahaffey is the brainchild behind, and he and I are best buds now. And when I heard that, I said, that's how I can make us different.
Yeah.
Musically. And so started to write songs, basically not copying him, but emulating those sounds and the way he did things. It's funny because he eventually produced the Luna Halo demo, which we'll get to, but yeah, so that became the beginning of the reality check and what set us apart, I think, from other things.
Yeah.
But during that, after years of being in that band, I mentioned to you that Radiohead had released OK Computer, and it was making waves all across the music industry.
Of course.
And our guitar player at the time, Johnny McIntosh, and I, after every show, would go to the back lounge of the bus and put that video on and just watch the live show of OK Computer. Mm-hmm. And we just were like, we want to do that. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that led to us leaving to form Luna Halo.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
You mentioned not copying, but emulating.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about that comparison between DC Talk. To prep for this, I just listened to as much as I could that you've done this week. But I would say like emulating someone is really the highest form of flattery, right?
Oh yeah.
You're paying homage to what you're saying, this is fantastic. Let me do something like this, but put my spin on it.
Yeah.
And you do have your own sound. It doesn't matter if that sounded like whatever. Like when I say it sounded like it, I mean like there's a piece of it that sounds like it.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's a riff or there's a part of a record or a song that sounds like a thing. Mm-hmm. I think we all have that as artists, right? We're pulling from whatever influences us. But you specifically, as a front man and a writer, have your own vibe. And it's very unique. Your voice is super unique. Your stage presence, all of it is like, it's like, I'm curious actually, like in real life, do you turn that on, or is that just like a stage thing, a studio thing?
Yeah,
like you know when it's go time.
It's a natural thing, and I think a lot of it too comes over years and years of touring and experience, and
what formed that? Not to interrupt, but like, okay, so go back really early, like your first live experiences. Right. Everyone's nervous,
right?
You're nervous your first time singing in front of anyone. You grew up in church doing that, which makes it a little bit easier, maybe. In some regard, because people are like, oh, look at that cute kid singing in front of church or whatever. Right. And then you start getting ego, you're hot shit because, everybody likes this.
When I was, I think I was 5 and I sang in this mega church in Dallas, Texas, and they rolled out a red bicycle right afterwards. And my mom said that ruined me because I expected something from singing every time.
Yeah. That might have helped you actually in business later on.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
I'm not doing this for free, guys.
Yeah. But, it was one of, what it is just years of, I wouldn't say rejection, but of, especially I remember the club days, like when you're playing to a room that doesn't care, you learn what doesn't work and what does work, and to work harder, and to maybe I should be a little more entertaining and not be the cool guy with my head down staring at my pedal board, or maybe, and that's just me personally. Yeah. I have become an entertainer over time, and truthfully, I don't think I've ever said this, but in the beginning, I felt like I was overcompensating because we weren't good enough. So
who's we?
Any band I was in at the time. So, I had little bands in high school and stuff like that. And I did my own little solo thing kind of. But I just felt I've always had imposter syndrome my whole life. Yeah. And so still do. And so I feel like it was a way of, if I entertain really well, then you won't hear this bad song that we're playing right now.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the one good one we have or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I think some of it came from that, but then over time, it just becomes part of your personality.
Right.
That's just what I do.
Yeah.
So
let's dive into that just like a little bit or as much as you want. As far as imposter syndrome and rejection goes.
Yeah.
Because in this business, they kind of go hand in hand, and it's kind of inevitable. And I would say most people I know in this business have been rejected. I mean, really in any business almost. It's how do you handle that? You've been through different bands, different deals. I'm sure, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure you've been dropped here and there.
Oh yeah.
You've had things cancel, whatever, songs don't hit. How do you handle that, and why do you keep doing it?
I've had 4 record deals, major record deals, 4 or 5, and I've been dropped from every one of them except one. So, and that one I asked to leave, I asked out of, but like, I've had 4 publishing deals. I've been dropped from everyone except the one I'm in now. It's part of the business, and that's easy to say, but, when you are rejected, that, especially as artists, I think we're very sensitive people, and I don't want to say it hurts worse than anybody else, but when you're emotional and sensitive, it definitely, it hurts you, and it's more than hurts your ego, it hurts your confidence.
Yes.
So, I feel like you're kind of like, am I even good at this? I don't know
even
if I am
after a
anymore.
certain amount of success.
Yeah.
You feel that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel that today. Yeah.
Grammy nominated, great records, great songwriter, cuts after cut, and still can get you right there in the heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that, for me doesn't go away. And I think some of that comes from like, just feeling like, you're not as good a musician as someone else, or you're not, you get offered this thing and you're like, oh no, I'm not, I remember when Keith Urban called and I said, no, that's not what I do. I had never been a side guy before. I was always a front man. And when I got the call that he wanted me to be in the band, I almost literally talked him out of it, because I was like, no, I'm not that good. I shouldn't be in this band, Yeah. And then I was there for 9 years. So,
right. Well, based on what I've seen, I haven't been to a show physically, but what I've seen, you look like a front man.
Oh, well.
You look like there's 2 front men.
That might be why I don't have the job anymore. Speaking of rejection.
Yeah, right.
It's fresh.
You were with Keith for 9 years.
9 years, yeah, until about 2 weeks ago. So,
okay. Yeah. Was that expected or not? Or do you want to?
It was not.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that he decided to make a change and sort of cleaned house. And Jerry Flowers, who's my great friend, who was a bass player for 25 years with him, we were 2 of the 3 to go, but I have nothing but great things to say about him. Nothing but respect. He treated us incredibly for 9 years. Yeah. I have a song on his record right now. He's a good dude, and I think it's his artistic vision. And in the end, you realize, we're not a band, and it felt like that, but we're not. And so wherever he's headed, I'm happy to see what happens.
And I think that's a key thing to remember for any up and comer or anybody in the business, is that it is a business.
Yeah.
And like the rejection can feel personal,
right? But
it's money. You know, it's a business,
and you forget that. Especially when you become friends, and you're like, in that situation in particular, which I don't want to hang on too long, but it felt like a band, because he's a band guy and treated us like a band, which was amazing when you're in it. I mean, who lets their guitarist sing a song by himself? You know what I mean? Like a whole song. Like that's what the kind of stuff he would do. And
and at that caliber and those kind of shows, that's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wild.
So he's a fantastic showman and obvious guitar player. Yeah. The best I've been around, and it was a hell of a run and an amazing 9 years. And but awesome. You move on and new things ahead. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's tell me about that instrument you made. The Phantom, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I want to know, but it looks weird.
Yeah, so
it's very cool.
When I got the call before the Keith job, I was in a band called Five Knives, which was an EDM.
Shout out Zach Hall.
Yep, Zach Hall, my buddy. EDM punk kind of thing that Zach and I had started together. I was triggering samples. That's when I had gotten into Ableton and like, how can I make the show more interesting? How can I trigger these samples live so it's not all on track, you know? And we were trying to straddle the line. It's when DJs were just so huge, you know, like we did shows with Skrillex and like, you know, that we were doing these massive EDM festivals where it's just DJs up there and they are just, you know, it's 100,000 people out there going crazy. And at that time, that was literally, you know, if you had a live instrument, you couldn't get arrested. So we were trying to walk this line of still playing guitars and keys and had a live drummer even, but we sounded like a DJ. Like it was, you know, a pretty cool concept. And so I had gotten into triggering samples, cutting up things off the record. And so when Keith called, I went and watched the show and I realized right away, I'm like, I know what I can do to make this cool and different and, you know, my role. And, but what I realized was he plays giant arenas every single night. And I'm like, no one wants to watch a guy just pushing some buttons and not know what he's doing up there. And which I played keys and guitar too, but a lot of the times I was triggering these things off the record. And that's when it came to, it dawned on me that if I had something that lit up and faced the crowd. So every time I hit a MIDI note, a trigger played some part, not only could you hear it, but you could see it. And there was a visual excitement to it. And so after like 3 months of R&D and failed attempts, like we finally got the first one that worked. And at that time it was 4 iPads, which is a horrible idea. But it got us through the rehearsals and then you get on the road and you realize this is a lot more complicated than we thought because they all have to talk to each other and one goes haywire or some MIDI thing happens and it's blinking and as a matter of fact, one of my biggest nightmares happened when we played the Grammys. And it's one of the most nervous shows I've ever done. Because the curtain opens and I see Paul McCartney and The Weeknd and Madonna and like they're all sitting right in the front row watching intently as we play. And I've got this new weird thing and we didn't realize at the time, but TV studio lights are so bright that it was coming in the, I don't know what you call the retina thing of the iPads, and it would freak them out. And they were blinking on their own without me touching them.
Oh gosh.
And luckily I could turn the volume down and it made no sound, but it just looked absolutely ridiculous. So I finally made it to play the Grammys and it just screwed up the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the pad eventually? So you moved from iPads.
So eventually, I don't want to give away all my secrets of what the program I was using, which they don't make anymore. So I guess it doesn't matter, but we eventually moved to a more sophisticated situation. But actually that screen is just a Dell computer, screen. But we used a company called Touch Innovations that is now out of business. So I can tell you, but it let you draw your own. I could have made that thing look any way I wanted to. Yeah. I just made it look how I wanted it to look.
Could you mass produce that kind of thing?
Well, so we looked into this because we were using third-party things like Ableton is the brains behind it all. And because we were using a Dell screen and because, Touch Innovations, I would have had to come up with all those things on my own. Yeah. I can't use another company's like product. So we would have had to invent a new version of Ableton Live and a new, so it got too crazy and expensive. And, I would love if anybody's out there and wants to do that. That'd be amazing. Come up with that kind of thing, It'd
probably suck all your time to develop
and that as well. Yeah. Stress and time. And so maybe that's after retirement. I can.
The gear world is a whole different ballgame.
Right. For sure.
Before we get into talking about the song that we're going to talk about, which is a newer Luna Halo song, I want to talk about Untouchable for a second.
Right.
Being like the song that will not die.
Yeah.
I want to just maybe go through that story. Tell us about what has led to that song just living out this like crazy path. What was it like writing it? Did you know it was special at the time? Because it's just one of those songs, as soon as it comes in, you know it's good.
You know what's funny is we tried to find a work tape to that.
Yeah.
And it's so old that like we, our bass player said, I think I have it on a CD somewhere, but I can't even. Yeah. So like I couldn't track it down, but it would have been my brother and I wrote that song. We were living in I was living in a duplex with the drummer, Chris Coleman in Sylvan Park here in Nashville. And we, I had a little Roland kind of 8-track recorder where you had to, you could record, we would record like really terrible drums in the living room, and then I'd bounce that down to 1 track, and then it'd add the bass, and you know what I mean? It was like really crude the way we were recording. But it's what we could afford, and it would just get the basic ideas down. But I remember, I believe my brother had that riff, and I immediately went, this is a smash. Like, I don't even care what we say over it. Like, this is huge.
Yeah.
And I started humming a melody as I do, just gibberish, and, and I think it stayed that way for a few weeks because I just didn't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
I was so scared of starting a lyric. And then I think it just came to me, the title, and, just, I just rattled it off and wrote it like that. Eventually we had turned it into Barbara Orbison, who was my publisher at the time. And she just wanted a couple lyric tweaks before we went in the studio and recorded it. So we brought in Tommy Lee James, who's a friend of ours, who's a great songwriter. And I think he only changed like maybe 2 lines. And, even so much when we offered him, he was like, but I was like, Tommy, he definitely made it better.
Yeah.
It just pushed it over the edge, So we went in with Rick Rubin and recorded that one, and it just came out. It's still one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say you can tell when a song's great when you can do it on acoustic or piano, and it's still great, and I feel that way about that song. It was just a magic gift from God that you don't expect, and it comes usually once in a career. For some people it comes a few times, but for us, I think that thing, it was just magical.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Well, what happened?
So it hangs out on that.
What happened is that we put it out. The label puts it out as a single, and it does nothing. It on rock radio, it kind of floundered. I can't remember where it got, but it wasn't very high up. And I just figured that was it. It's dead in the water, and that's a shame. And it was, and then the album kind of followed suit, did the same thing, and Carrie and I just we're going to just go into songwriting and just forget the band really. And, that was fun. But, and then I get a call from Scott Borchetta at Big Machine. And he said, hey, I played Taylor Swift, this new artist I played her your record. And she's going to do a cover of Untouchable on this TV show called Stripped, which was just her and an acoustic guitar. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing, Yeah. I hadn't heard of her, but I was like, that's pretty cool. And so later I see it, and she's turned it into a ballad and changed the melody on the verse. And I was a little bit like, wow, that's really different. But I liked it. I thought it was really good. And I loved what she did with it. I have an open mind with that kind of stuff. I'm never like, oh, that's mine, and she messed it up. And, I was like, that's cool. I would have never thought to do that, And all of a sudden, it's back when, YouTube was first like really blowing up, and all these young girls just were putting up copycat versions of them in their room, doing it. And I think that's one amazing thing that happened with that song, is that she did it that way first, so that people could copy it. Because if it was a big produced thing, they might not have as many, you know what I mean? It was just her and a guitar. And so all these girls in their room and guys like playing the song, posting it, it just started to take off. And so then I get the call that she's putting it on the Fearless album. So, which is mind blowing, you know, and by that time she was big, you know, and, cause Fearless had really taken off. And then we get the call that she's doing it on Saturday Night Live. So she did that. I got to sit and watch that. And, you know, I'll never forget sitting, we were hanging out with the Kings of Leon boys and Jared and Nathan Followill in their living room. And my brother and I are there, and our song's about to be on Saturday Night Live. And when it came on, they were freaking out. They're like, dude, you're on Saturday Night Live. And I'm like, you're in one of the biggest bands in the world. Like, you would have thought, like, you know what I mean? They were excited about that for us, you know, which was really cool of them. Yeah. But I just thought it was so funny. I remember that moment of seeing it because I was with them, and they were so excited for us, which was really cool because they, you know, they play Saturday Night Live.
To see your friends succeed.
Yeah, it's fun. It was really cool. It was a good time in our lives for sure.
And then she put it on something else, right? Like
well, she re-recorded it for the Taylor's version.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, she recently did that, and
it just won't go away.
It won't go away.
Stop.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. I like that.
Please, yeah, it's such a good song. If you all out there haven't heard it, which is probably just a handful of people at this point, but please go listen to it. It's so good.
The Luna Halo version and the Taylor version.
Yeah, both. I sent them to my son, actually.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the, I was showing my kids the CDs, the Luna Halo CDs in the car.
Right.
And then I told him about that song. And I was like, you know, Taylor Swift cut it and it's all of this stuff. So I sent him both of them, and he liked her version.
Yeah.
He's going to be
Most people do, I think so.
But I like your version.
Thank you.
I'm a Luna Halo fan, so.
Thank you.
Why restart Luna Halo after, I say restart. I feel like it never went away, but, you know.
In our hearts.
I know you guys had a career, you have families, you have all this stuff going on between the four of you.
Yeah.
Why come back? I know you were supposed to do something right around the time COVID hit.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a show, like a reunion show.
So we were doing a reunion show just for fun.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And so then obviously that put that off a year and a half or something like that.
Right.
And we, I can't remember if that was like an anniversary of like, it might have been 12-year anniversary, some kind of anniversary thing for us. But so we ended up doing that show, and we hadn't played a show in 7 years or something. And what was amazing is, that first rehearsal, we just sounded like Luna Halo. It wasn't, we hadn't been in the room together, you know, and
same guys
all those years, same original guys. And it was incredible. Mm-hmm. And so we all got excited, and then we do this show and sell out Mercy Lounge, and then the show goes great. And you could feel this underlying, like, we should put out more music, like, cause we still got it. We still sound good, and people still want to hear it. So it just felt like something we should do. So we discussed it, like, hey, would you guys be in if we did an EP? And they're like, yeah. So I then had to go about, well, what would we sound like now?
Yeah.
Like, are we still emulating Luna Halo from 2007 or 13 when that era, or are we supposed to sound like older guys that are, you know what I mean? Yeah. It is really hard and intimidating. So I didn't start writing a song for 6 months or so, because every time I wanted to, I would get in my own head and I'd be like, I can't do this. Like, and you don't want to taint something that's got a good reputation.
Sure.
And then it was my brother again comes in with this riff that's not oddly, but similar to the Untouchable kind of vibe. And it became Hollywood Faded, and that's the first song we wrote for it. And I knew as soon as we had that, I was like, this is it. This is the path. This is where we, you know.
Yeah, because the new stuff is not a total rip of your old stuff.
Right.
But it's still that.
Right.
You know, like it's got like a modern, like a 2025 modern-esque.
Slightly more mature.
I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
I'm not like a top 40 guy, but like at least current top 40 guy. So I don't know what to call it, but I hear like it could 100% get to me, your old fan, and get to a new generation of kids that like all the other influences that you're pulling.
Yeah,
through.
I'm really happy and I'm proud of what we did.
Yeah. Which leads us into Feed Your Feelings, which is a great song. We'll go ahead and listen to the work tape of that, and then we'll kind of break that down.
Okay.
Cool.
Having love, sentimental thing that have you. Could have been happy, happy. How like the phone. Say your name. Oh, they but every day. Oh, the moment now by every way. All the time. Now I wanna be saved, pieces. I know every reason. All of everything. Something in the rain. I've been lost. Something in the way you let me go. Every time you knew I let me go. Deep down, and I fall to pieces. Well, I'm every reason. Every time I get something in there. All I want is you to know I'm leaving. Everybody loving every season. Oh, in every loving every waiting on the daylight. Why you changing your mind? Something in me hopes this time you'll stay away. Guess you got your reasons. You leave me in pieces. You just walk away. I can't even pray. God, I don't believe you're leaving. You'll come back to me and feed your feelings. That's just who you are. Living out my
This is a great work tape. So what I've done on this work tape is I'm putting two together. So you've got what I appreciate about the work tape that you sent is the first one has no lyrics. It just says you making noise.
Just
The
mumbling.
melodies. Is that how you generally write?
Yes.
Melody first?
It
That's like
is.
the old age question, right?
Yeah, I am sometimes music and melody at the same time, sometimes music first, and then I'll, but it's usually pretty simultaneous for
Well,
me.
what's interesting about this, because I do this a lot. I mean, I'll write lyrics all the time, but that have nothing. They're just ideas,
Right.
Kitschy phrases or whatever. But if I play a riff, I stumble on a nice riff or whatever, then I'll start making those noises like you did.
Mm-hmm.
And then certain words fall out.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Like it's like this weird thing where you hear a word and then you write around that. Is that?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
I mean, that's what happened with this, where this was late at night. the story behind Feed Your Feelings was that we thought we were ready for the EP to go in and record. And something was bugging me. Like, we're missing one moment, you know. We had great songs. We had more upbeat stuff. We had the, you know, I was like, we need like an emotional song. We don't have that.
Yeah.
And it was bothering me. And also, I didn't feel like vocally I'd really shown what I could do on the other songs, even though they were good songs. I was like, I'm not really like going for it, you know?
Yeah.
So the idea that I brought to my brother, Carrie, and a buddy of ours, Mike Fiorentino, was we need to write this emotional ballad thing that blows up. We had a song called Haunted that kind of like does a similar thing, but obviously I wanted this to be a more sophisticated version of that. But so we had planned to get together in a couple days. And then that very night, I think I'd had a couple drinks, and then I went up to my studio and I just went into it, you know. Yeah. But like you said, I'm playing the piano and I'm mumbling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whatever the reasons. And like that ended up being the actual lyric that made the record.
Right.
And I think it was Mike that said, well, it sounds like you're saying reasons here. And what? That's cool. Why don't we just start with that? Or, you know. And then I came up with, I guess you got your reasons. And yeah, so we just kind of talked, the three of us, when we wrote it in Carrie's studio, and we're like, you know, what if it's like a, you know, a vampire sucking kind of relationship where it's, you know, she comes back to feed her feelings, you know, so.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's kind of off center for like a love song, breakup kind of thing.
Right.
Like the, you know, the buzzword now is like a narcissist. That's the vibe I got when I listened down to the lyrics, like feed your feelings. That goes right. Right into it.
It worked out. Too bad the, what's the Kristen Stewart vampire show isn't still a thing.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they'll do a remake. They always remake.
Maybe they'll do another movie. Yeah.
I'm sure there's vampire stuff you can pitch it to.
Yeah, definitely.
All day. What do you have coming up?
We actually haven't.
You have Newfound Freedom right now.
Yeah, I do. I kind of do. I'm 2 days after I got that call from Keith, I got a call from someone else to play with them, which I don't want to jinx and don't want to mention yet, but I'm currently learning 25 new songs and going to Europe in March to play with another country artist. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm really excited about the opportunity. In the meantime, when we tracked that EP, we tracked some extra songs, and we didn't tell anyone and haven't mentioned it, but on I don't know when this is going to air.
This will be after the 7th.
So February 7th is when we have a song coming out called The Real Thing,
which is great.
Luna Halo. And
it's very cool.
You're one of the very few people that have heard it. So
yeah, I heard the intro and I was like, huh. And then it got into it and I was like, this is rad.
Yeah, cool.
It hits, man.
Yeah.
It's a great song. We could play it on the outro of this if you want.
Absolutely.
Like a snippet of it.
That'd be great.
Let's do it. I'll do that.
So yeah, that's coming out. And then we've been trying to get a Luna Halo show together here in Nashville for 5 months now. And it's just been all our touring schedules because everybody's doing different things. Our bass player works for Brad Paisley now, and our drummer's married to Hank Jr.'s daughter, Holly, and they play together, and he plays with Hank some. And my brother's a songwriter, and, you know, so we all have kids and, you know, families. And so it's been hard to get us in and then any date we lock down, you call the clubs, and Nashville is like hot shit now all of a sudden. It wasn't back in the day, you're like
12th and Porter.
Yeah. They were begging people to play on a Thursday night or whatever. And now you can't get a gig.
What was your favorite venue back then? Like late 90s, early 2000s?
I feel like 12th and Porter was always our home.
Yeah.
I liked the size and the sound of that room.
Yeah.
And even when we got to where we could have sold that out 2 or 3 nights in a row, I just wanted to play it that one night and cram people in. It was like uncomfortably hot in there.
Man, one of the I'm not proud of this, but one of the drunkest I've ever been was a Luna Halo after party.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
That's a common story. Yeah. That's a common story.
Wild.
Yeah. We left no stone unturned. We definitely lived the full thing.
It was like you go to this great energetic rock show and then it just keeps going.
It keeps going.
The show is over, but it's not really
over. And we prided ourselves in that. We were like, oh, you think it's over? No, come here. Come to this bar.
Yeah.
And we'd be on tables and DJing and,
I was done for like 3 days after that one. It was bad. Yeah. That's why I remember it.
Like a hangover in your 40s.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do that now.
Right.
Man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
It's been fun.
Making the time.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's 100 more things we could talk about.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep you all day, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Good luck on everything coming up.
Thank you.
I think you'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Silver on my tongue, spitting solid gold. Gonna say what I mean, gonna get what you see. Blinded by the sun, don't get caught up in the show. Talk is so cheap, I'm the real thing.
Worktapes is produced by me, Brandon Carswell. Filming and editing by Sean Carswell. Special thanks to Nathan Barlowe and Luna Halo. Learn more about Luna Halo on their Instagram page at Luna Halo Music. Thanks for listening to Worktapes. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Silver on my tongue, spitting solid gold. Gonna say what I mean, gonna get what you see.